Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 31 Media podcast. My name is Vaishnavi Nashte, and I'm the marketing and PR manager here at 31 Media. Today's podcast is in collaboration with the National DevOps Conference and Awards. If you're interested in attending or speaking the conference, or even exhibit some of your tech solutions to our delegates, please follow the link in the description to do so. Today's podcast is not one you want to miss because we are talking to one of our keynote speakers of the National DevOps Conference, Marvi Cotone. Marvi has recently joined Homes England, which is the government's housing and regeneration agency. She's joined them as the Deputy Director of Digital Delivery and Architecture, where she leads the department responsible for delivering digital solutions to achieve Homes England outcomes. Welcome to the Rewan Media podcast, Marvi. How are you?
Hi, thank you, Vaishnavi. I'm all good. Thank you. Thank you for actually
Uh,
hosting this podcast and giving me the
yeah,
opportunity to speak about my
no, your
talk.
keynote speaking session, like it looks so interesting. I definitely had to do like a podcast with you. So thank you so much for even being a part of it.
Thank you.
My first question to you is obviously about your speaking session. Could you give our audience a bit more information regarding what your speaking session is going to be about and what kind of people can actually attend that?
Yeah, sure. So, actually, the topic of this talk came from a personal passion, actually, that I got
Hmm.
about measurement. So, one of the things that I learned from many years in software development is the importance of measurement. So, for
Yeah.
organizations that want to, that aim actually to achieve great outcomes for the users, is really, really necessary to implement robust measurement framework that are
Hmm.
telling them actually in a world that moves so fast as a lead digital actually landscape, how good
Hmm.
they are adapting to change and how good they are coping actually with increasing demand. So,
Yeah.
well, the talk is about indeed accelerating software delivery
Hmm.
through monitoring and observability. So they are kind of part of two. There are two key in tools actually that are
Yeah.
being used within measurement framework. And as I said, obviously, it's something that I'm very passionate about because I'm always keen that everyone in the organization and every people that works with me know and understand how good they're doing, how good we are doing an organization, and if we are delivering effectively actually value
Yeah.
to our
Yeah.
users, how we are actually using our money in order actually to meet that kind of customer user needs.
Yeah. Amazing. And what kind of people do you think would be most suitable for the speaking session as well? Like, who do you think should attend this?
So everyone actually that is interested in software delivery, everyone that is experienced in DevOps as well, everyone that actually would like to know more
Hmm.
about how to set up a good, robust measurement framework in order to understand how their team are doing, if the digital
Yeah.
system implemented as well are kind of reliable enough, are robust enough. So
Yeah.
everyone actually that wish to identify key area of
Hmm.
improvement and understand in their organization, in their team, and understand how
Hmm.
to effectively improve the kind of gaps, the kind of impediments, the kind of challenges, overcome those kind of challenges that they face through software delivery.
Yeah. Sounds amazing. Like you're basically providing them like the strategy framework from end-to-end management, which is super interesting. Which brings me to my next question. What do you think, like, what is monitoring and observability, and why do you think it's important in the first place?
Yeah, so well, you say something really key here. You say strategy rather than actually saying some technical words, like say technical tools, because I strongly believe that more than being just technical tools, monitoring and
Yeah.
observability are actually strategic tools because they will enable
Mm,
the organization to understand whether they're delivering value and how they are delivering that value. So the clue, why they're important? Well, the clue is kind of in the title that I gave to the session, so like accelerating software delivery. But when I mean accelerating, I don't only mean actually going fast, moving faster. I mean as well moving smarter. That's why they are
yeah.
also strategical tool rather than just actually technical tool. Because they will
Mm,
give you actually those kind of insights that you need in order to understand where the key improvement needs to be made in order to move smarter. So, like striking the right of balance between velocity and quality. So, most of the time we hear
right.
teams, we hear questions. Our teams actually are being questioned about how quick are you doing, which is your velocity indicator, or which is your trend on
Yeah.
velocity, this kind of stuff. But sometimes we forgot to ask as well the quality around their delivery process. So are
Mm.
you do you have actually right environment? Do you actually have high quality tools? Is the technology that we are giving you enabling you to deliver at that velocity as well? So quality
Yeah.
about that, and quality as well about what we produce. So are you producing that? Are we implementing that kind of product fast? But are we also providing, ensuring that quality is never compromised? So how we
Yeah.
can monitor that? How we can actually get insight from about that? And this is where monitoring and observability, specifically in DevOps, come in.
Yeah.
So they're like, and this is why they're essentially important for organizations that want to
Hmm.
strike that kind of balance between quality and velocity, and that want
Yeah.
actually to create a long-term success as well in a fast-paced digital landscape.
Yeah. Amazing. And what do you think is the difference between the two, like monitoring and observability?
Yeah, so they are like the words might seem similar as well sometimes, and I'm not a native English speaker, and sometimes probably if I want to translate them in Italian, I might even exchange
Yeah.
them. So, because they both aim actually to provide organization and teams with the best actually insights around their complex IT systems. But in reality, actually, there's a difference between the two. And I like
Mm.
to give a few to explain that in few words sometimes, like
Hmm.
for an audience that might not be familiar with these terms. So to give in few words, to explain it in
Yeah.
few words, indeed, monitoring collects data,
Mm.
observability actually interprets them. So monitoring tells you what's wrong, observability tells you why it's wrong. To give a proper
Right.
example and going more into like a proper organization like team life example. So
Yeah.
a monitoring tool might tell you that your application response rate is no longer adequate. But then
Mm.
observability tells you which microservices within this application is actually causing the problem. So in that way,
Mm.
knowing actually which microservice as well is causing the problem, and the overall problem is like inadequate response rate, you may be able actually to perform knowing the microservice to really strategically understand which kind of action you need to implement in order to
Yeah.
relocate to regulate again the response to reliability. And
Oh,
yes, so this
wow.
is actually the main one goes more deep down the observability,
Mm.
another one gives you an overview. You might want to implement monitoring and forgetting about observability, but you'll never actually have that kind of
Mm.
overall like holistic view around your team system landscape.
Right.
And monitoring indeed is very old. You might find it actually when we were first using computers,
Mm.
telling you about the health of your help disk, something like that. But that's why then observability come in and say, okay, let's go deep dive further. And the
Yeah.
tools we use as well. In the beginning, sometimes some dashboard were just their purpose was just actually providing insight, monitoring insight. But then as well,
Mm.
those dashboards, the people that were implementing those companies are implementing those dashboards. So our from which we are clients of, they also understood that actually there might be monitoring without observability, but you only get actually
Mm.
the right view if you implement both together in your frameworks.
Yeah. So it's like almost striking the right balance between the two,
Yeah,
isn't it? Right.
exactly.
And one more question. It probably might be like a bit slightly off topic, or would you say like what are the tools that you have used for both of these things, and what are like certain suggestions that you would give to our audience when it comes to like using specific tools within monitoring and observability?
This is a really nice question because it's not off topic because indeed it's a good question to understand actually what every organization use around in order to
Mm.
understand. There are a lot of dashboards, a lot of tools actually
Yeah.
in the world. It's difficult to understand which is the right one to pick. So
Mm.
I'm using like we have been using in the previous organization things like Grafana, Dynatrace, but I don't want actually to provide advice on a specific tool in my talk.
Mm.
But I believe actually that one of the key things to implement a successful monitoring and observability framework
Mm.
is for the organization to be able actually to understand which is the best tool that suits their purpose.
Right.
So the first step that you need to, as an organization or teams, needs to go through before understanding which is the right tool is to understand actually
Mm.
which goal they want to achieve,
Mm.
because each tool might give
Mm.
you different insight, might give you might be requiring a different approach from your people. So focusing on people indeed more than tools is important in
Mm.
this. when you want to implement those monitoring observability framework. So people is key, because every change in organization, every time you want to introduce a new framework and new like tooling system, you need to understand
Yeah.
how the people are approaching that, and avoid that kind of burden or pressure to do it quicker and use that one
Yeah.
because we need to gather these insights. So ensuring that the team are understanding why we are doing that, the people are understanding why we are doing that, and ensuring that also they appreciate and they
Mm.
suggest, they might evaluate as well the tool that you propose, or letting them propose the right tool
Yeah.
for you. So that's why I don't say, oh, you need to use that, because I'm like,
Yeah.
there's actually one solution might not fit all. So it's
Mm.
important actually to define the clear objectives before implementing this framework, the monitoring and observability framework.
Yeah.
Understanding actually the metrics is really important for monitoring. Monitoring actually
Mm.
based on defined metrics. So you need to understand, okay, which goal I want to achieve by implementing this framework, and
Yeah.
what do I need to measure then based on my business. Again, you might not copy metrics measured by another
Mm.
business. By implementing, we may go to different vision, we may have different goals within the organization.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then it's important as well, obviously, to understand how to collect this data. So
Right.
having a scalable data platform is important. There are I know that I'm expanding actually the answer, but I feel actually
No,
I should,
go ahead. That, yeah.
these are the right advices before thinking about the tools. It's
Yeah.
important to understand on now if you have the right environment, the right culture as well, where you can
Yeah.
implement these monitoring observability frameworks.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
imagine like you're giving so much knowledge in the podcast itself. Like your presentation would probably be a lot more in depth, which is extremely
Yeah.
beneficial, isn't it, to our audience? Which brings me to my last question for you. What would you advise are some of the best practices for implementing monitoring and observability framework?
Yeah, I'm connecting back to my previous answer indeed, because it's a nice follow up. Thank you for asking that, because indeed one of the best practices actually is having a mindset that is flexible. Because
Mm.
as I say, obviously, leaving the time to the team to experiment, to iterate, to adapt, and to experiment specifically, actually, because obviously they try a tool, they try actually a process, they try the approach, and then it goes pivot, and they have the chance to go back. So learning, failing, and repeating is really really important. So avoiding actually to move as fast as possible, because I know that the market is very competitive, and sometimes organizations want to compete within each other to have the most innovative solution ever. But it's important
Yeah.
as well to have the right piece to approach innovation as well. So whenever monitoring, something to bear in mind as well, whenever implementing as well these frameworks,
Mm.
and try to start to gather some quick wins as well, because obviously I
Mm.
know organization teams might feel overwhelmed, and after they did all the setup, okay, they decided the tool, they identify the metrics. So start to understand which are the quick wins that you can get from monitoring specifically, because you can automate incident response. For example, there are so many kind of incidents provided actually through which monitoring can provide insight to, and they
Yeah.
don't necessarily require actually developer intervention. So you can automate actually the response to that, to a specific monitoring tool. Yeah, so mostly actually is understanding as well, as I say, which are the goals, and define
Right.
the. One of the things that I always say about measuring performance or measuring something key in organization is that everything, you can't really measure everything. So don't go with the obsession to make sure that you have everything under your control, but
Mm.
understanding actually which are the key things that you have to control. Because again,
Mm.
while we are doing this, we are measuring, we are implementing this kind of monitoring observability framework to understand which are the pitfalls in our process,
Yeah.
in our systems as well, in order to address the right improvements. It's not just for the sake
Mm.
for saying, oh, I'm doing best than everyone else. Sometimes there is this kind of
Mm.
misconception.
Yeah, amazing. That's like you're teaching people how to think when it comes to building like a particular strategy, which is so beneficial today. But thank you so much for all of your answers. That is literally my end of questions. But thank you so much for providing all the answers and also being on the 31 Media podcast. And if there are people out there like who want to ask Marvi more questions, make sure to attend her speaking session at the National DevOps Conference, and you can ask her as many questions as you want to. But Marvi, do you have any other thoughts that you want to mention to our audience today?
No, I'm just actually, I don't want to add any further, of course, because I'm
Yeah.
obviously, but we know that during the session, we will navigate together. Actually, we will explore together with the audience more about this topic. So I'm looking forward
Yeah.
actually for the session, for the conference, and to meet all of you. And yeah, and answer all the questions that you might have.
Amazing. Perfect. Thank you so much, Marvi.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.